Hey, so anyway, a guy was sort of wondering about, should he go to college or should he just sort of study programming if that's what he wants to do? So I'm going to basically explain first of all a bit about Raspberry Pi if that's what you're wanting to do. This is itself a really good example of what exactly you can do if you want to do programming. In case you don't know, I'll give you a bit of information to Raspberry Pi. Now, this of course depends what you want to start off. Now, this one I've got at the moment is a Raspberry Pi 4B. You could start if you want to in Raspberry Pi 3. I've got at the moment Raspberry Pi 2, 3, 4, and I will be getting Raspberry Pi, I believe, next month probably. So you can start if you want to in an older one as well. But one of the things I would highly recommend if you're going to be going down the Raspberry Pi route, get a good SD card. This one I've got at the moment is 128 gigabytes. 408 itself may seem a good idea to start with, but when you start doing more things you will need a bigger space, so I'd recommend you get one which is at least 60 gigabytes. If you're positive you can work on 4 or 8 gigabytes, then hey, go for it. But you will appreciate the bigger size later on. Another thing I'd recommend if you're going to go down the Raspberry Pi route, you have in total 4 USBs. 2 of them are basically faster and 2 of them are slower. Now, I know you can get into speed differences already if you want to, don't worry about it too much, but that's why in general it's a good idea to do what I've done, where basically I've got one USB for both my keyboard and my mouse. Having one is a good idea. If you have two, you'll find later on it can become quite frustrating if you're going to do different things. I mean, you may for some reason decide you only need to use two. If you're positive that's the case, then hey, it may not be an issue. But for me, I generally like to just use one USB. It just makes things easier for me. And I would highly recommend you get a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. It may not seem important to you now, but it just becomes much easier if you stand up doing things, you're sitting, whatever you're doing. It just becomes much easier when you got a wireless thing. This thing as well does have quite a lot of power behind it. It is what I'd say a very good quality little computer. You can buy one for, this of course depends where you're based. You can buy a Raspberry Pi 5, I think at the moment are about £69, so say 70 or in your currency $75 roughly. So you can do that. Raspberry Pi itself has many things built into it. In case you don't know about the software base, it's based on the Raspbian style of the Debian system. So you'll be working off a Linux system, but the Linux system is very easy to work. If what you want to do is a programming thing, the Raspberry Pi itself is a really good piece of tech to have. And you can also see it's tiny, it's not very big. You can basically do lots of customization to it. I mean, you can, if you want to, for some reason, you can use it to say, for argument's sake, turn on your lights if you want to. You can make little robots with it. You can do a lot of different things with it. So it does have lots of potential things as a whole. It will have many softwares you can get for. There's a lot of things which work purely in Raspberry or are designed more for Raspberry. For example, if you want to play Pac-Man, for some reason you can play it in a Raspberry Pi. You get a lot of apps on it. There is very easy information to be able to find, so if you don't know how to install something, you've never worked a terminal before, you can quite easily put the question into Google or wherever else you want to use, and it will tell you quite quickly what exactly is the command you have to put into your terminal. Your terminal is basically a thing you see at the top left of your screen once you got your Raspberry Pi installed or the rest of it. You click that, you basically install things. For example, if you want to turn on Windows Visual Studio, all you do is type in the word code. Press code, press enter, then it should in theory start. You'll learn the codes yourself quite quickly the more you use it. So this sort of thing itself can be a good thing for you to run different things. Linux itself is, to be blunt, the best system with regards to doing coding. Windows itself is not good for coding. Windows as well, regarding to how bad it's become in regards to all the updates it's done. I mean, for me, I haven't really liked Windows since like Windows XP. Everything else has sort of gone really downhill. That's one of the reasons I generally don't really use Windows anymore. It's just become so bloated and such a crap operating system. I generally don't use Windows anymore. I basically purely run off Linux-based systems because Linux is always much faster. It is more secure. You can do lots of cool customization things. The only reason some people still keep Windows, and that's if you're playing video games or for some reason it only works in Windows. But if that is an issue to you, you really need something Windows, you can just buy a cheap computer which does what you want, or if you really need a more powerful one, you can do it for example, on servers online. There's lots of ways you can get around it, so don't feel you have to rely on Windows. Linux itself as well allows you to customize things, so if you don't like something, you can change the settings. If you're going to be starting off using Linux and you've never done it, Raspberry Pi is probably your best bet. You should be able to find a Raspberry Pi quite easy. I know if Americans who buy them, so you should be able to get it too. You can get Raspberry Pis in quite a lot of countries in the world, so you should be able to get one of these sort of things. Once you basically got your thing, you basically just screw in, you just put in your screws there. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, there. You just put your screws in that bit. Once you've got your screws in, you can attach fans, you can attach different things. It's however you want to do it. You can as well have two monitors on it. So if, for example, purposes, you might want the two monitors. I've never felt a need for it, but if you need two monitors, you can do it. You have two spaces for your monitors, so you can do things with it. You also can get many different things, such as you want a camera, you can get a camera module, you can do lots of different things with this thing. It is a really good starting system for it. You can do more advanced things with a Pi if that's what you want to do. So if programming is what you want to do, Raspberry Pi is probably your best bet. Just be aware, if you've never done it before, it may seem a wee bit hard for you. And as well, if you've never done anything coding wise before, you're not aware of things to do, I would highly recommend when you get your Raspberry Pi installed in your house or wherever you're based, that you start using a software called Scratch. In case you don't know what Scratch is, I'll basically give you a wee introduction into it. So Scratch itself is basically a software which is designed, I think it was designed by, if I remember correctly, the Estonian University. I think they're the ones that created it. And what Scratch does, Scratch itself basically allows you to be able to basically learn coding without really having to learn, how to type things. You basically just connect things together. You can build games with it, such as Pong. It's a really good introduction to software. If you've never done it before, it's a really good thing. I know it's meant for kids, but don't let it put you off trying it. Scratch itself is the best really introduction you can get to it. Once you're familiar with all things you can do Scratch, or you get an introduction to it, then move on to different things such as Python, C language, or whatever language you want to learn, such as Julia or something else. It all kind of come back to what you want to learn regarding software for what works for you. If you just want to get the introduction, this thing's more than good enough. If you want to do more advanced things, then this thing could be probably good enough, but of course it depends on how advanced you need. If you really need for some reason some very powerful computer, then Raspberry Pi is probably not for you. Anything from small to medium will probably work. You can do different things, you can connect different Raspberry Pis together if you want to do that sort of thing. But if you're really going to go down powerful routes, you'd probably be best just getting, say, a good quality Linux computer. But for introduction stuff, this sort of thing is good enough for you. You can as well, if you want to, for some reason, you can make it look different. For example, you can get a more fancy case. You can get a case for some reason that looks like a PlayStation. You can get a case that looks like an N64. You get lots of cases if that's what you want to do. But for programming work, this thing should be good enough for you as a whole. So anyway, getting back to a question you were sort of wondering, so should I go to university and get my degree in, say, software stuff? It kind of comes back to you. A lot of people I know who do work in software, the majority of my friends who do that sort of stuff, I don't know of anyone who actually has a degree, to be completely honest with you, in software engineering software. Most of the people I know who do coding or have done it, most of them just done the same as me, started as a kid. For example, when I first started doing it, my first time I started coding was on an Amiga 500, Amiga 1200. That was where I started off doing it. And I've done things on DOS, a wee bit on Linux, a bit on Android. Most of the stuff I just learned myself. You can quite easily learn everything you really need to know, more or less, on coding, regarding to YouTube videos. If you want a more course-feed thing, then you can take a UDM course. You have all the potential ways to learn software engineering if that's what you want to do. Whether you're going to learn C language, hypertext markup language, Java, JavaScript, anything else, is really down to you. But having a degree itself is not going to guarantee a job. The degree itself kind of got screwed over when the boomers basically became obsessed with, everyone's got to have a degree, you got to have a degree for being apparently a retail assistant, you got to have a degree to become a cleaner and all that kind of stuff. That basically resulted in the degree to use a millennial expression, it became known as a piece of paper. Because in most cases your degree is not going to get a job. there's only a very small amount of degrees which are going to have a high degree chance of getting a job. For example, if you've got a PhD in, say, training to become, say, a doctor, a dentist, if you have something like that, then they probably will give you a job. But a lot of other things, unfortunately, don't work anymore in regards to basically what the boomers did regarding making a degree become a worthless piece of paper. In regards to a lie, they told us that, you get your degree, you're guaranteed a job, which didn't obviously happen. So if you're wanting to go to university and learn software engineering, it kind of comes back to you. Will you having a degree from this university college make you get a job more easy? If you can tell me, yes it will, I've got a guaranteed job if I get a degree in such and such university from company A, company B, then get it. If not, you can learn everything you want for free on YouTube. Or you can buy a course if you want a more practical thing. You can join software sites, you can join software forums, you can join Facebook groups, you can join Telegram groups. It's however you want to do it. You have all the opportunities in the world to be able to learn how to code back to the Raspberry Pi. And that's my thoughts. So if you want to get a degree to get a job, will this degree from whatever university you're going to get you a job? If you can honestly tell me this is guaranteed to get a job, then hey, go for it. But just be aware, the majority of people who did go to university and college in a lot of cases, they didn't get a job, instead they got student debt. And I may be wrong here, but I believe the student debt for Americans, unless you get a scholarship, I think it's like $250,000 you guys and girls have to pay. I mean, if you can tell me you're going to get some job which is going to pay you, for argument's sake, $100,000 a year or say more, and you'll be able to pay off your student debt very quickly, say argument's sake in 5 years, then it may be worth you doing it. But again, it comes back to, will this get you a job? Will this give you information or help you become better at coding or whatever you want to do? If you can tell me this course is going to do that, you got a really smart professor, you're going to learn lots of things, you're going to build up connections, you're going to be able to get people who recommend you for jobs at your college, university, then it may be worth you doing it. But in my experience, from most people I know who are good at software, the majority of them have never been to university for that. I mean, to be blunt, when I was going to university or college, it didn't really exist much. I mean, I'm sure it did in certain places, but people weren't really going to university or college to become software engineers. It only sort of became popular, I would guess, about 10 or more years ago. Because, getting back to what I was doing, most of the things I was doing purely for fun. I mean, I have made a couple of video games, I have built SEO software, so I got an index for you sometimes, I built websites, all the rest of it. But again, the majority of stuff I've learned were all taught by me, or I just learned from other people watching videos. You have all the opportunities in the world to be able to learn software engineering really well. Whether you want to build a social media site, whether you're wanting to, say, build an app, or whatever. You can do all these things really easy with going back to Raspberry Pi. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, and again, think about this. Will you having your degree in software engineer get you a job? If you can honestly tell me, yes, I'm 100% guaranteed, or I've got a 95% chance I'll get a job if I get this degree, then it may be worth you doing it. But can you not just learn all this stuff for free or very, very cheap? You probably can, can't you? I mean, I'm pretty sure if you type into YouTube now, Python course, Python training, Python introduction, teach me how to understand your Julia coding language, teach me how to understand C language, or something like that, I'm sure you can learn this stuff quite quickly. You can basically teach a course, you get a course taught to you for very tiny money on, say, Udemy. You can quite easily buy a course for, like, say, 10 to, say, max of £100, which will basically give you most information you need to be able to build basic Python apps, make a C language app or software. You can do all these things quite easy by buying a course if that's what you want to do. The courses in general will probably provide you better information, because one of the things I don't think a lot of people realise, and this is again quite a big problem in regards to Western education, the majority of people who are teaching you things have never had a job in these areas. For example, when I done business management, this is no joke or lie, I asked my business management teacher, a guy, I said to him, how exactly did you get into management job? How many management jobs he had? Which I thought was a reasonable question to ask. But he never had a job. He was just an academic person. He's never had a job outside of being a teacher. He's never worked in retail. He's never run a business. So he was basically a useless tutor. That's what you'll find is quite often the problem. The people teaching you things have no experience, and that again means they can't teach you things because they don't know anything except for the theory. Learning theory can be cool, but will that theory give you practical experience to make you better as a software engineer or better as something else? Probably not. I mean, a final bit for end this video. The majority of things I learned in high school regarding business management, product, price, place, promotion, I found early on the majority of things I learned in high school for business management or the rest I got is basically just the same stuff I learned in high school. The only difference was you had to write more words. That's basically it. I mean, you had variations of the product, price, place, promotion, another P, you had marketing included, you had Boston Marketing, all that kind of stuff. You had different theories, but the majority of stuff you learned would be the same 5 theories done by person A, person B, C, D. You're basically just learning the same 5, 10, 20 theories, but we try and reword it so then it's apparently 20, then it's 40, 60, 80, 100, but you're basically just learning the same stuff, just reworded. That was again something I noticed early on in regards to doing business management. That's why in general I would never recommend anyone takes a business management degree because you're just learning the basics, you're not really learning anything of value. For example, that's one thing I'll share before I end is, I remember speaking to a guy who was quite high ranking in the company. I'm not going to say what company it is because it doesn't really matter for this video, but me and him were just talking just general things, and he was telling me, you know why I don't take anyone who got a degree anymore? I said, why is that? I said, well, whenever they come out for a degree, they come out really stupid and useless. So why did he tell me that? Well, because the student was getting taught wrong information by, as I said, the tutor who's never worked in that area, the person would come out of university and become worse than if they ironically just came from high school, because they're getting taught wrong theories which don't apply to modern day business or businesses in reality. Learning business management theories are fine, but you have to realise there's differences between theories versus reality. And I hope that answers your question, and just one thing, if you want to get one, get a Raspberry Pi. I'd recommend you go with Pi 5, but if you want to say it was me, then get a 4B, it's down to you. But get a big SD card. SD card's basically what holds the memory on it, and also the operating system. So you'll need an SD card. It doesn't really matter how big you want to go. I'd recommend getting at least 60. But if you really want to just start what they recommend, say 4.8, then get 4.8 gigabyte. But the bigger you have, it will be helpful later on when you start to install more software on it. And once you've got your stuff installed, it's very easy to find the code. The coding for it is very easy. You won't have a hard time learning how to do things on Raspberry Pi. It's pretty user friendly. You'll have your internet already on it. Once you've got your internet connected, then you'll be able to install whatever you want. You can find commands really easy by searching online. If you get stuck for some reason, you can ask me. Anyway, that's all. Hope you have a good day, good week, or good year. Anyway, that's all. Thanks, bye.